Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Founders Grid, sponsored by Gaper.io. Today we have Victor. Victor is the CEO and co-founder of Justpoint. Victor, welcome to the show.
Yeah, thanks so much.
So, give us a brief background about yourself, what you've been doing before Justpoint.
Yeah, so as a background, I'm from Brazil originally. I came to the US to get my PhD. And my thought was to stay in academia and stay as a professor and keep working in research. But throughout my research, I ended up being exposed to venture capital, which was something very interesting to me. I ended up getting a position in a venture capital firm, Digitalis Ventures. So right after I finished my PhD, I jumped straight into that space. I really liked it, so I decided to stick around that space a little bit longer. So I ended up from Digitalis. I worked at a few places. I worked at an accelerator company in Houston, PMCX. Went back to where I did my PhD, Mount Sinai Hospital, where I was a professor. And all this time working with health technology, basically how to improve hospital systems. So basically, one of the issues that I saw that I was very interested in was around medical malpractice. And I saw how technology could be used to decrease medical malpractice, understand medical malpractice. So what I decided to do is basically jump out of the hospital system, Mount Sinai, and just build my team and create a technology around that. So that's the kind of story behind before Justpoint.
Interesting. So, and how's the journey been so far? From the product market fit to the early customers, the early adopters. Do you want to shed some light on that? Because product market fit is everyone which keeps on talking about, but the discovery part to the product market fit is much more easier said than done. So, how was that?
Yeah. Yeah, honestly, we pivoted, I would say, 2 times. So it was quite a journey. The original idea was for us to create an insurance company like Lemonade and Oscar, Clover. And we got together with a lot of the experts in the field. We reached out to the founder of Clover, Oscar, Hippo, and all these big insurance companies. And we were always, whenever we focused on an idea, we would see and try to talk to experts in that field, because what we knew that was true is that we can use AI to optimize medical malpractice, but that can go to market we listed 18 different ways. So when you have 18 different go-to-market strategies, you have to be very diligent about how you choose the best one. So we would choose the one that we thought was the most promising, talk to experts in the field, understand if we agree with them or not, understand if the idea that they were saying was what we believed in. And actually in that kind of journey, we ended up finding a few of our investors. The founder of Clover Health, the insurance company, invested in us. We have a few other insurance people. But then we quickly realized that the best angle was to do what we're doing right now, which is actually helping attorneys understand the merits of medical malpractice. And it was just a matter of, we launched this in stealth mode, and it was being picked up, and it started growing at 30% a month. And when that started happening, the previous plans that we had were very clear that was not as good as this one. So it became like self-evident that this was the path that we should be taking, basically.
Got it. Got it. So as a founder, Victor, one needs to wear multiple hats, from sales to convincing investors to working with the technology team, working with the sales team, customer support. In an office typical environment, many can make sense. But because of COVID, everyone has been forced to go remote, right? So, the usual water cooler chit chat is not there. The coffee discussions are not there. So, the mental health of the team is becoming challenging for everyone. So, how are you able to take care of the mental health of the team despite growing 30% month on month?
Yeah, that's that's a good question, because
I know it's
it's
a
a lot.
question, but you can take up all the time to answer it.
No, this is a long and good question. We have an advantage before COVID that we were already working remote. Actually, our CTO, who is amazing, he used to work at Google, high level at Google. But we chose him because of his skills, and fit with the company, not because of his location. So he was actually not based in New York. He's based in Poland. So from the very beginning of the company 2 years ago, we learned how to work well remotely, and how to coordinate well, how to build report. And we signed all the documents with him before we ever met in person. So he was just the best person in all aspects. So, why limit yourself to one geographic location, right? So we brought him on board. We established all the channels. So we would talk and we would have happy hours and beers over Skype already, over Zoom, Google Meet. And then we started doing some other activities. For example, we learned that playing video games together online, it's a good way to, know the person and get acquainted with the person and see how they are as a person.
Interesting.
So we started doing that. Sorry?
Interesting. That's an interesting thought. We've never tried it. That's a good thought, actually.
Yeah, because it's an activity you can do online and it's very easy. It's not everyone is. I'm not super into video games, so I usually lose when we're playing together. But it's not about winning. It's about really,
It's about the
having
cursing,
fun together.
All sports come up with cursing your friends, right? So it comes up with the cursing.
Yeah, no, it's fun. It's to having a beer and you're playing some video games together. It's kind of a nice way for a remote team. And then what we do now that the team grew, and some people actually we never met them in person, right? So we hired now people. We have people in Brazil, people in Poland, people in Florida, New York, in Colorado now. So the idea is, how do you build a system in which, as you said, you give support, right? And right now during COVID, it's even more important because it's not just working remotely.
Yeah.
Is actually working remotely during a pandemic, right? So you cannot see your friends, you cannot do the things that you wanted to do. So we try to be there for each person. I have one-on-ones with the team, everyone in the team. We try to meet for happy hours. You still have the video game sessions. They're helpful. So that's one of the things. And we really try to build a culture of where everyone feel comfortable explaining the difficulties they're having and the kind of issues they have. It's always, when you have an issue and you make a mistake, it's not about blaming the person. It's about how can we move forward, because we feel like building this psychological safety, especially right now, is super helpful for people to feel more comfortable doing the job they're doing.
True. So remote. So do you think once the world goes back to normal, you would want to go back to office, or you would stick with the remote culture?
We are sticking to remote right now. We're fully embracing it. So I just moved from New York to Colorado. I've been in New York for 9 years. Wow. And right now we let go of our office space. It was a nice, beautiful office space in Soho. But it adds some cost to the to the company. And we've been now fully embracing the advantages of being remote. So as the way we see, there's amazing advantages of being fully remote and distributed. There's some challenges too. So what we try to do is optimize for all the pros and then mitigate the cons. I shouldn't say the cons, the challenges. And the pros is that you can work right now. I used to live in a small 1-bedroom apartment with my wife in New York, on the Upper West Side. It was very difficult for both of us to hold meetings at the same time because we'd be speaking over each other. Not ideal. Now we live for the same, actually lower amount of price. We live in Colorado in a house with 3 bedrooms. I have my drum set because I haven't played drums in 20 years. So there are also things that, remote work makes it possible. We also, for example, have people that we hired, some of the best people who I work with from Brazil, from Poland. So that's only possible with remote work. But you have some challenges too, right? For example, as you mentioned, building true friendship over remote work is not the easiest thing. So then what we try to do is pre-COVID, we would travel and see each other every month. So I would go to Poland, or our CTO would come here. Now we plan to go to Brazil. And then people get excited because now some of our employees want to work 1 month from Brazil, especially during Carnival. And that's kind of fun for everyone. But we plan to stay remote for the future of the company. And people are relocating. I came to Colorado. My co-founder went to New Jersey. So everyone is making basically life choices based on that.
So last question. Where do you see Justpoint 3 years from now?
Yeah, so there's a few different possibilities, but the one that we see ourselves doing is expanding, of course, our line of business right now, which is helping plaintiffs find the best attorneys for them. And this is an industry, medical malpractice is an industry that does not have too much credibility in the US because it's very difficult to find attorneys that you trust. So what we do is that we add data to the whole system so people can understand who they're choosing, who they're bringing. We've been fortunate the business is growing in that sense, so we want to keep growing the business on that sense. But as we also grow, we've been approached by even insurance companies who see that, well, they're getting more lawsuits because the attorneys are getting more efficient. So they also want to use technology. So in the future, what we want to do, and probably sooner rather than later, is start working with all the sides, because we believe that there are legitimate issues on both sides of the lawsuit.
Yeah.
Plaintiffs who have legitimate lawsuits have to have a voice. However, on the other side, when a lawsuit is not actually legitimate, insurance companies have to be able to solve it as quick as possible. So as we grow, I would say within the 3 years, is the goal is to be working in the two sides of the lawsuit. So we cannot really truly optimize the medical malpractice space and bring it to what it actually should be, a system that can fairly determine if a case was malconduct or it wasn't.
God. Victor, thank you so much for being on our show. We really enjoyed it. I am sure we could have talked for at least another 20 minutes, but my marketing team tells me I need to keep it within 12. Otherwise, they just trim it, they just trim it. And yeah, so that's just amazing. So,
No, I understand that, yeah.
Thank you so much for being on the show. Take care of yourself and stay safe.
Yeah, thanks so much.